What is going on, everybody? It's another episode of Denmark and Marsh. I am Dylan Denmark. That is Graham Marsh. We need to start plugging the pod and make sure we're subscribing to the 1010XL Gator channel. It's something I've done a poor job of. I think I've only said like 4 times.
1010XL Gators on YouTube, 1010XL Florida Gators on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're a podcast guy that doesn't watch, and then Florida Gators at 1010XL on Facebook.
Yeah, and we've had some good numbers. I don't really look at the YouTube. I don't look at all the other stuff. YouTube, I live on YouTube. I don't know about you, but I don't really spend much time on TV. I go on YouTube. I look at our numbers, and I look at Frangie and Hicken. Look at their show. No, we gotta take them down, Graham. They gotta go down. I'm just playing. What's going on, Graham?
UCF week.
Yeah, it is.
That's what's going on.
So yeah, we got a problem with this, man.
What's the problem?
Okay, I've done some investigating.
Okay.
Since 2019, UCF has not had a better recruiting class than 50.
Okay.
In that same time frame, Florida has had recruiting classes in the top 15. One time they were 18.
Okay.
UCF's a field goal favorite going in the game of the Swamp.
Yeah, that's an issue.
That is a fireable offense in and of itself.
100%.
How does this happen, man? And again, I know it's just high schoolers, and you're not talking about the transfer portal. You have clearly a better roster up and down. UCF gets guys that can't go to Florida, and UCF is a favorite. I mean, if I had told you that when Napier got hired, that, hey, you're in the middle of year 3, UCF was going to be a favorite in Gainesville by a field goal, some of it say 2.5, and you look at the rosters, and yeah, you're an underdog.
I'd say that might be his last game, and I think that's kind of where we sit. If they go out there and lay an egg, there's a good chance that's going to be his last game. Mind you, look, over the last couple of weeks, so obviously the season started as horribly as it possibly could have, and everybody's pissed. Pitchforks, torches, fire him, fire Strickland, clean house, get everybody out of there. We got to reset. We got to completely blow this whole thing up, right? We're all furious, right? After the Miami and the A&M game, it hadn't been much lower in my lifetime, I can remember, for Gator Nation, and won the coach out. Then they beat a really, really bad Mississippi State team, but at least they win. They go on the road and win. They go on the road and win an SEC game. I don't know how much that counts for, but at least they won a game and looked halfway decent, at least on offense particularly. And they had a bye. Okay, so now you're looking at like 2 weeks of time that media, fans, everybody has been able to sort of just take a breath and just chill out and let their emotions settle a bit. They lose on Saturday, it's all right back. It's all right back.
I'm thinking a worst case scenario, if you get beat like you did against A&M, and UCF, for whatever reason, they couldn't run the ball last week, and they were one of the top teams in the country running the football. I mean, we thought the A&M game was bad, and people wanted Billy to be fired, and you could hear the chants and be in the boos. I mean, you lose to a team that you consider like not even a little brother. You lose to a team that is just down the road that's never even a thought of, other than the times when they win their Group of 5 conference championship and they, have a chance to play in a Fiesta Bowl or something.
Before like 5 years ago, this would have been a paycheck game historically.
Yeah.
Maybe not 5, maybe like 10.
Yeah, 10. Once they got Blake Bortles, they started to become, a decent...
I think 10 is fair. But 10 before like 10 years ago, before like 2014, I guess Bortles was a little before that. 15 years, whatever, who cares? Historically, not all that long ago, this would have been a paycheck game. And it is now not. You're not even favored.
Do you think Florida wins?
I do, actually. We talked about this the other day. I think Florida wins.
Mines do change, though.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny. I believe when we spoke the other day, I think Florida was a favorite, and I think the money, or maybe the line had just changed.
From what I seen, Florida was the favorite when the line came out initially on Friday. Florida was -2, and then it went UCF's way Sunday, Monday.
Yeah,
and it's kept going into UCF's favor.
Right. So money keeps coming in for UCF, and they keep adjusting it. I tend to believe Florida is going to win this game, actually. But look, don't bet on them. I said this, I gave the PSA before the Mississippi State game, and I know you would have won money against Mississippi State. Mississippi State is terrible, okay? If you care about your hard-earned American dollars, do not bet on this team. Me saying that I think that they can win and picking them to win,
it's totally different.
Yeah. I got a gun in my head. We're in the podcast. Got to pick a winner. This is like 51-49 for me. I think it's close. I think this is the fourth quarter and you don't know who's going to win. I also think because this is a Billy Napier-led football team, them just going out there and looking like they've never played football before is entirely on the table.
It's also possible. Here's my thing with, I know a lot of people don't really care about the spreads and stuff, but every team that's been favored has won when it comes to Florida. Miami was favored, A&M was favored, and Florida was favored against Sanford and Mississippi State. For the line to change 5.5 points tells me that Vegas has some type of information that has not been out yet, or they know something that nobody else does. That's just really... You don't see a line move 5.5 points within a couple of days without something glaring change, whether it be a quarterback injury, a coach not being there for some reason. The line's not going to change if Eugene Wilson can play or not, which, by the way, I think they said he practiced yesterday, last night, which is a good sign. Something's just very off about this. Like, I don't know, UCF played bad last week against Colorado. People think, they got blown out. They might do. I don't really believe that. Usually, after you get blown out, you're more focused into practice the following week. And it's Florida, a game that I'm sure most of the kids on the team. I mean, if you look at all the recruiting classes, they get kids mostly in the state of Florida, and most of those kids can't go to Florida. So this is the game they've circled for a very long time. They're going to be up for this game, regardless if UCF was 0-4 or 4-0.
All the I bet if you were to look at all the non-transfer portal players for UCF. Portal is obviously different, but all the guys that they recruited out of high school, chances are those kids, almost all of them, probably grew up Florida or Florida State fans.
Yep.
So
probably true.
This game, and look, they didn't look good against Colorado last week, who's also not a good football team. This game against UCF, their players, their fans, their coaches, this game means 10 times more than that Colorado game did. Even though last week was a big deal for them because they had Dion and crew coming in and Travis Hunter and Shador and the big noon kickoff was in Orlando. Like last week was a big deal for them.
And then they had I think it was like 50 prospects for recruiting that went to that game. I mean, I'm sure some of it was for Colorado, but still, adds to the point of it being a big deal.
You're right. Last week was a big deal for them for a lot of reasons. UCF fans might be in these comments. I can't see them right now, giving different opinions on that. But if I had to guess, if you injected every UCF player and coach and fan with truth serum and made them say, is this the most important game of the season to you? They'd almost all say yes. Because it's the Gators. Not because this is some great powerhouse team they're about to play. It's because it's the Gators.
Yeah, right down the road, and they're not playing Florida. I don't think they're playing Florida State and Miami or any other team.
No, they're not. Other
than, South Florida, the I-4 war, as they say. Napier said, to no surprise, that he expects, Lagway and Marsh to play for the rest of the season, splitting them up like they did the last two games.
What are the chances that actually happens?
That they're going to both play?
No, they're going to both play. They're going to both stick to that exact every third thing that he's doing right now.
I don't think they're going to split it like they did against A&M. I think they'll probably do something similar to what they did against Mississippi State. I think they'll probably continue that.
But I know that for UCF. I'm talking about what are the odds that
it goes for the rest of the year?
It's the Ole Miss game, and they're still doing that. I think it only changes if. I mean, we both agree that Mertz is the better quarterback right now. Today, yes.
It would take Lagway to play astronomically bad for that to change, and I don't see that happening.
See, I think it would be the opposite. I think it would take Mertz to play really bad for that to change, because I think if the reason that this whole thing is a thing right now is because Mertz is the better quarterback, like we said. Lagway, for all intents and purposes, is the higher ceiling. He is the future. He is the guy that needs to get developed right now. He's the guy that can use this season that a lot of us are already considering lost to get valuable reps and against some of the best teams in the country. The reason you're playing Mertz right now is because Napier's got to win ball games to keep his job, and today he's the better quarterback as of right now, this moment. If his production starts to slip, I mean, think back to the Miami game. Napier can say whatever he wants right now. You and I were at that game. If Mertz played well in that game, Lagway was not going to play.
No, there's no shot.
He was not going to play, with the exception of a run or two on like 3rd and 1 here and there. He was never going to play like a drive where he's like throwing passes. Lagway, his first play of the game was when Mertz got knocked out for the concussion. He hadn't played yet, and that was late in the game. So, but the point in that is that was a game where Mertz didn't play that well, even before he got injured. Ever since then, when Mertz has been in, he's looked decent. So putting Lagway in has really strictly just been for A, fan excitement, and B, keeping Lagway engaged, right? And then maybe you can argue a little bit of a wrinkle in the game plan, a little bit of a spark. I get that. But if Mertz starts dipping, I think 100% Lagway's going to play. And I think if Napier gets any closer to the chopping block than he already is, which, I mean, he's literally on it right now, I think at some point before he actually fully gets fired, he will make the decision of Lagway's our guy.
I just don't understand if you get into a situation like you did against Mississippi State where Mertz is clearly having a rhythm and he's doing good, and then you pull him and put Lagway in for an entire drive.
I agree.
That just shows to me that, like, you have a plan and you're just going to stick with the plan and, like, you don't care about anything else. Like, part of being an offensive coach is you having a feel for what the game is like. It's called in-game adjustments. And what separates really good coaches from the bad coaches are the ones that can adjust in-game and see something in the defense or see something in their own team and say, we're going to roll with this because this is working right now. Like, I mean, it's basic high school stuff.
I mean, look at the Georgia-Alabama game on Saturday night. Georgia in the first half, Mike Bobo and Carson Beck couldn't cook up anything. They looked like a high school team trying to put something together offense. They could not do anything. They clearly made a plethora of adjustments at halftime to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't. And they looked like a different team in the second half. That's the adjustments that you're talking about. Billy Napier doesn't make those.
Yeah, I still think that I understand what you're saying. I think that's a little different because, like, the vibe of the game changes when you're down 24-30. Like, everything changes from your mood, the energy. Yes, they did make adjustments, but, like, when you're in a ball game and you're still in it in the first half, you know, and say March goes to midfield, punts, and on the second drive you go down and it looks good, like they did against Mississippi State, and you drive down, kick, and you score a touchdown, and it's easy. Like, there's just nothing that shows you as to say, okay, now we have to put Lagway in to see what he can do. Like, if you have the spark, you ride it out. And for the life of me, I will never seem to understand what goes through his mind when he does that.
I feel like it's the game plan equivalent of, like, if you have like a great home crowd and you've made a couple of plays to get the crowd involved and get them really loud and screwing up the other team, telling the crowd to be quiet. That's kind of what it is, right?
Yeah.
You got a quarterback that's playing well. He's cooking. He's throwing well. The plays are working. You know, one play is setting up another, and things are just working well. And then you're like, take him out. I don't get it either. And there's only two reasons I can think of for why he's doing it this way. Because, I mean, he watches the games. He knows Mertz is playing well. He knows he's got momentum. The only two things I can think of for him to do that is, A, that in-game feel that you're talking about, he doesn't have the confidence in himself to have that in-game feel.
Well, and he hasn't shown in his entire tenure that he has that in-game.
He has not. And I think there's two reasons he would do it the way he's doing it. A is, he'll never say this publicly, but he doesn't have the confidence in himself to make the right in-game decisions.
I'm sure it's part of it.
And he always talks about, in his press conferences and everything he's ever seen, or anything he's ever spoken, he's always talked a lot about preparation. Preparation's a big thing to him. So I think in his mind, he wants to win the game, try to win the game like Monday through Friday before it kicks off on Saturday. He wants to be so well prepared that they're going to be there to him. I know they don't look prepared a lot of the time, but in his mind, he's like, if I have this preparation, then, like, that's going to win me the ball game. And then B, which is the real reason, the more obvious reason, he didn't want Lagway to not play and transfer.
Yeah. What do you think the final score is going to be? I see a 42-38 kind of score. I don't see how one defense is stopping the other offense.
Dude, it might be even higher than that. It might be...
I was kind of being generous.
It might be 49-45, dude. And that's the thing. Mississippi State is horrendous. Again, I know that. I get it. I was encouraged by the offense. And there were even times in the Texas A&M game I was encouraged by the offense. Not the whole game. Obviously, they had a lot of hiccups, but that's the side of the ball that I think if they're going to get this season somewhat back on track in any way, that's the side of the ball that's going to do it. It ain't the we've said it before. I don't know what the defense does.
Billy Napier did say the defense is good other than the times when they're bad. So kind of like, when you're at your job and, you're good at your job when you're good at your job, but on the days you're bad, you're bad. Who knew?
Dylan.
He opened my eyes up. I never really thought about it that way.
Dylan, I'm a great driver. Other than when I run red lights,
than when you hit the curb
speed by 25 minutes,
you accidentally clip somebody
and text and drive.
Yeah.
Other than when I rear end someone, I'm a great driver.
I'm great at getting back in my emails, but I only have 50 unread emails right now. I saw it. I'm like, are we stupid? I'm stupid. I'm stupid. That's what it is.
Dylan, you're the problem. You haven't figured this out.
Yes, I'm the problem.
It's your issue, dude. Look, man, I don't know what it is, but you're talking year 4 now of the Gators having historically bad defenses. You're talking about the last year of Mullen.
20. I count.
20 was about. No, you're right. Sorry, you're right. I wasn't counting them.
Everybody had a bad defense, so we'll disregard it.
I wasn't counting them as much because they had a good team, but I guess you could count them. Because they were really, really bad. I mean, if the 2020 defense was
a 10th better, they would have made the playoff.
If they were,
they needed a stop against LSU, a stop against A&M, and a stop against Alabama.
That defense was an F-. If they were a D-, that team probably wins the national championship.
They got a shot.
Anyways, so I guess you could count them. So this is 5 years now. Dating back to Dan Mullen's last 2 seasons, and then all of Billy Napier's seasons. In that 5-year span, you have 4 different defensive coordinators, and nobody can figure it out. I don't understand what's going on. With Mullen, I kind of did. With Mullen, it was the recruiting, because you and I have talked about this, Dylan. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast or just offline and when you and I talk ball. I'm of the belief, generally speaking, that in college, offense, you need dudes on both sides of the ball, but offense, you can do more in terms of scheme, squeezing talent out of guys, that, maybe getting guys to overachieve, putting guys in position to succeed, even if they're not the complete package at whatever position, working around maybe a weak offensive line or something like that. Defense is dudes. Defense is about dudes. Your defensive line, you can have the worst defense coordinator in the country or the best. Can my guys up front beat the dudes blocking them? It's really that simple. My DBs, can they not get beat and can they make plays? It's really that, you know what I mean? And it's not to say defensive coaching doesn't matter. It obviously does. But I think dudes are the ones that take you to where you need to go if you're going to get to where you need to go. And I think that was the problem with Mullen's recruiting. And then with Napier, I don't know that he's ever built the recruiting up enough to ever get to a point where they're going to have a good defense. And he's made bad coordinator hires, in my opinion.
Offense is always, I look at it as like an orchestra. Like everybody's got to be in sync and you have a lot of people. Defense, you just got to have guys that want to blow stuff up.
Correct.
Now, obviously, you got to be aligned and you got to know your job. But once you get past those two, you got to have those kind of guys. There was a good thing that happened in the bye week that we didn't, I don't know if we hinted at it Monday or not. So Matt Hayes put out a decent article yesterday. I know the guy. Big iced coffee guy, by the way. If you ever see him, he likes iced coffee. This little jab. That's an inside joke.
This is going way over my head.
Wait, didn't he say that joke to you one time? He was like, iced coffee. One time. Okay, anyway. We'll just take that part of the pod. He put out an article yesterday talking about Lane Kiffin coming to Florida and how that loss to Kentucky has now opened the floodgates to what, if Ole Miss doesn't make the playoff, things are in line for him to come to Florida. And Ole Miss does have a tough game this Saturday against South Carolina. And I talked to Matt right before this pod started, and he's like, I said, how close is it Lane coming to Florida? And I'm like, just, having a conversation or whatever, just passing by. He's like, 2 more losses, man. I'm like, 2? He goes, it could happen this Saturday. I'm like, man. I mean, if you're a Florida fan and there's nothing to root for, I mean, because Florida State's terrible, and Florida, you don't have anything to root for in the season. I mean, it's almost like you have to watch every Ole Miss game and hope that something bad happens, and it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with Matt at all, and I don't even think that's like. I think that's just kind of putting two and two together and kind of connecting all the dots. Like, if Ole Miss is in the playoff, then that's going to create big problems for them trying to hire him. We've been through this with the timeline and how that's going to work. Would it still be worth it? In my opinion and your opinion, yes. And in a lot of people's opinion, yes. But it just makes things more difficult. It makes them more messy. If Ole Miss misses the playoff, I mean, you're not wrong, though. That changes everything. If he misses the play, because by the way, if he misses the playoff, then he's missing the SEC championship game. So after they walk off the field against Mississippi State, Thanksgiving week, they're going to be in whatever New Year's Six Bowl or whatever that. I don't even know if they're doing New Year's Six Bowls now. I don't even know how that works now. Or are they all going to be playoff games? I don't totally know how that works.
Games.
Anyways, they're going to be in some bowl game that Lane Kiffin's not going to care about. Is the point? So theoretically, after the Mississippi State Ole Miss game, which for Gator timeline is the Florida State game weekend, it's not crazy if they lose two more games, like Matt says. It's not crazy to believe that he could be Florida's coach that Monday.
So here's the remaining schedule for Ole Miss. You tell me where they find two more losses.
Okay.
I'll count Mississippi State the last game. They'll beat them.
Okay.
You got South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia.
There it is. That's one.
Florida. That's it. So you got a ranked opponent at home against Oklahoma. You're on the road at LSU, and you have South Carolina. You're at South Carolina this Saturday, and then you're at LSU at night next week.
The losses come against Georgia, and then one of the three upcoming games that they have.
The next three.
Between South Carolina, LSU, and who is the other one I'm missing? Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Between South Carolina, LSU, and Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma just changed quarterback, so they might be a different team by then.
Mm-hmm. They just beat Auburn, I don't think Auburn's very good. But
no, Oklahoma
they did go to Auburn and beat them.
So Auburn blew that game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
That was so bad.
Okay. I would probably so look at it this way. Those three games, I'd probably pick Ole Miss to win each game individually. But I wouldn't pick them to win all three in a row. Does that make sense?
Yes.
At some point, they're going to drop one of those games.
Well,
I think they're going to win this week. They're pissed off. Everybody's been telling them all week how much they suck. Everybody's been telling them that they're a bunch
frauds.
They're frauds. They're wimps in the trenches. They're going to win this week, I believe. Is South Carolina game in Columbia or in Oxford, you said?
In South Carolina. So they're back-to-back. They're in Columbia and at LSU.
Okay,
that's a tough road.
I think LSU is who gets them.
Yeah, and it's at night.
I think.
Everybody's on bourbon.
Death Valley at night, second away game in a row. I think that's the game.
Well, and I've seen a little bit of Arkansas. Arkansas, like, none of these games are easy. Like, I think they'll beat Florida and Ole Miss, but none of these games are to the point where
Mississippi State.
Yeah, Florida, Mississippi State are easy. But the other ones, like Arkansas is not terrible. Oklahoma could be a different team, like we've said. So there's, the SEC is just, it's almost, I'm not going to say it's like the NFL, but you just can't take a break. There is not a game where, if you're not coming out right, you're coming out fighting, you can't get things going offensively like you saw against Kentucky for Ole Miss. Like, these teams can jump on you and they can beat you.
This is where this is a little bit off the topic we were just talking about, but it's on the same vein, and it pertains to the team that Florida's playing this week. This is why the whole 2017 national champion thing was really, really, really stupid. Because, cool, you went undefeated. And, cool, you beat, who they beat? They beat, was it Auburn they beat? Or they beat LSU, who beat Auburn, I believe.
No, they beat Auburn. Because Auburn missed the playoff because they lost the SEC title. Kerryon Johnson wasn't playing, and you had all that.
Okay, so
that was the Peach Bowl.
But it was some transitive property stuff going on. I don't totally remember what it was, but it was UCF beat this team, who beat this team, who's in the Natty or something like that. When you play in a conference like the SEC, the difficulty is not necessarily who you're playing that week in a vacuum. The difficulty is the season grind of I got to play this good team, and then this good team, and then this good team, and then this good team. That's the issue. That's the concern. I mean, think about with to put it in UCF terms, to put it in their perspective, Florida's not very good right now, so this doesn't really count, but they just lost to Colorado. What if after Colorado they had to go play like Georgia this week? Okay, well, they'd get boat raced, right? Now you're looking at you've lost 2 straight games, and you probably got a couple of injuries in there, and things don't look too great. Okay, what about the week after? What if they had to play Ole Miss next week? Okay, well, that team's going to put 100 points on you. So it's the grind is what gets away from you. It's not saying UCF can't beat this particular team in a vacuum in any given week.
Yeah, most definitely.
One negative piece of news we got to say: Florida lost a commit.
I did.
Demetrius
see
Samuel.
He went to Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to go to Syracuse?
Because
NIL money.
Yeah, and
I mean, it's kind of.
And Florida's coach is probably not going to be there by the time he actually gets to campus.
I mean, they're going to take a hit in recruiting.
I saw a tweet about this after he decommitted, which I totally agree with, and this is true. This happened when Muschamp left, when it happened when every single coach has left. Don't call for the coach to get fired and then be upset with decommits because they're going to happen. Like,
That's how it works.
I get the whole commit to the logo thing. That's mostly BS.
Kids don't care about that junk. Sorry, boomers, you got to get rid of that. Kids don't care about wanting to be a Gator.
But
just saying.
But what I will say is it's all the more reason when they do end up firing Napier, it's all the more reason that you got to go make a splash like Lane Kiffin. Because someone like Lane Kiffin is a guy that would have the chance when they do lose some guys because Napier's gone. Kiffin's the type of guy that could reel them back in. And not just reel them back in, but go get some other guys. Go get some other portal guy. And they could piecemeal a serviceable transition class if you have that type of name, firepower associated with UF. Versus at this point, because the program has been bad for this long, recruits don't remember the days when Florida was good. Another like Napier type of hire, it's going to be really, really, really hard for that individual.
It's going to take another 2 years for guys to buy into the program. You get Lane Kiffin, Florida's 9-3 next year at worst.
9-3 with that schedule. 9-3 next year with Lane.
I mean, okay, you probably lose to Georgia. You lose to Texas. I'll say 8-4. Lane Kiffin is not going to come in Florida the first year.
I think 8-4 is probably safer year one.
Yeah.
But
like at worst, like Lane Kiffin's not going 6-6 with his team.
I agree.
There's no shot. If Lagway's his quarterback, or even if it's not, if it's a decent quarterback like he's going to develop like he always has, and have semi-decent talent on the outside, that team's going to put up 40 points a game.
Yeah. And something you just said, I think unconsciously, because we've talked about it so much, but kind of proves the point we're trying to make. You just said if Lagway's his quarterback. Basically assuming that if Kiffin comes, he's going to convince Lagway to stay. That we don't know for sure. I think he would have a really good fighting chance, like an above 50% chance, honestly, to keep him. If you go get Alex Golish or somebody,
Lagway's... Mike Bobo.
If you get someone
I would... Oh, my gosh.
If you go get someone like that, Lagway's gone.
Yeah.
And that's not...
the whole roster's going to be gone.
That's not to say you make the decision based on one guy, but it's the whole point of you got to get the talent that is on the roster right now, which there is talent. You got to give them a reason to come back and play for this team next year.
Yeah. All right. I got to roll. Nice, solid 30-minute pod. Let's get our numbers up on the 1010XL Gator channel, please, and thank you. We do really appreciate, I know I always play around, but we do really appreciate you guys hopping in and listening. The game's at 7:45, so we'll be giving y'all a reaction, 11 o'clock? Damn, I'll be tired. It'll be a long Saturday. But we'll go 30 minutes, whatever, and...
A long Saturday of sitting on your ass and watching college football?
Yeah.
That's tiring
Probably
business,
got to cut
right?
grass, and...
Oh...
We'll do something.
So I need to catch up. I like to listen to our own episodes.
You do that? I've never done that.
I like to listen to our own stuff. I don't do it every episode, but I like to do a decent amount. So I caught up on some of our episodes. You love mentioning cutting the grass.
Oh, I do like cutting the grass. It is a drug. It's like every Saturday.
Every time we're either the intro or the outro, you talk about cutting the grass.
Man, it's a drug. I look at it, I'm like, I gotta cut this grass, and then I cut the grass. It smells good. It looks good.
You like the smell of cut grass?
Yes.
I hate the smell of cut grass.
Different. I just like, with the TVs on right here, I look to my left window and seeing grass cut. I had to pick up all the sticks from the hurricane. Me and old man Bruce picked up some of them sticks so the grass could be cut.
Who's Bruce, your husband?
Yeah. He's an old coach's roommate. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't cut grass because I live in an apartment. So
Have you ever cut your own grass?
when I lived with my parents, yeah. But that's the last time I lived in a house.
That was
We live in our Gainesville house, but our
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Back in high school.
But yeah, I did then. My dad would make me. Usually he would go ride mower for the majority of the grass, and I would go push for our little corners and stuff.
Got me a push. I pushed the whole grass.
Because our yard in Tennessee was too big to do a push for the whole thing. Especially
Zero turn. We got one of them John Deere where you hit them zero turn.
We had a John Deere.
An 18-wheeler. It's pretty sick.
And in Florida everything's flat. Our Tennessee house, our backyard was like this. It was like a
nice little slope.
Yeah. So that was tough. I didn't love that. It'd be like when I get home from football practice.
So when you cut the grass, you go up and down, or you go side to side?
Side to side.
Side to side, yeah. That'd be kind of hard. You'd be like, your thighs would be getting a nice workout if you did that. All right, I think everybody's had enough of their yard cutting podcast here.
Hey, man, people that listen to this pod cut their grass.
That's true.
They got thoughts on cutting grass.
I got nice St. Augustine grass.
That is nice.
All right, I'm done talking.